Sometimes, the truth doesn't shatter a life, it slices it open, slow and deliberate, with the precision of someone who knows exactly where to cut. The mistress posted their affair online, but the pregnant wife uploaded a video that made the millionaire vanish in the quiet suburbs of Silver Glen. Rumors spread faster than wildfires when a sultry social media post emerged claiming an affair with the town's most prominent millionaire. The cozy facade of perfection started to crumble. At the center of it all was Marcus Langford, a charismatic entrepreneur whose fortune was matched only by the devotion of his pregnant wife, Ava. Yet everything changed when a mysterious mistress, Sienna Blake, decided to broadcast their affair online for the entire world to witness. Little did anyone know, Ava had her own shocking piece of evidence, one devastating video that would make Marcus vanish without a trace. Every grand story has a humble beginning, and for Marcus Langford and Ava Monroe Langford, it began in the bustling city of Denver. While Marcus had been a promising tech entrepreneur, Ava was a talented interior designer known for her innovative touches in luxury homes. Their union was the stuff of local legend, a lavish wedding covered by the Denver press, a fairy tale honeymoon, and a blossoming partnership that seemed destined for lifelong bliss. But just beneath the surface of their perfect world lay secrets that threatened to bubble up. Late-night phone calls, furtive text messages, and a faint disconnect in Marcus's gaze worried Ava, but she attributed it to stress. After all, Marcus's multi-million-dollar software venture, Nexora Systems, was in the midst of a massive expansion. When Ava found out she was pregnant, she saw it as a divine confirmation that all the sleepless nights and anxious thoughts would soon be replaced by the warmth of a growing family. Their suburban home in Silver Glen, just outside the city, symbolized tranquility. Neighbors admired the confident entrepreneur who never stopped hosting community drives, and the poised wife who managed to look radiant even on her most hectic days. But behind Ava's smiles were questions she couldn't quite articulate. Why did Marcus's business trips stretch so long? Why was he evasive about new colleagues, especially one named Sienna Blake? Sienna Blake was a consultant brought in to refine Nexora Systems' user interface for a major relaunch. Vivacious, sharp, and notoriously direct, she made an immediate impact. Rumors circled in Marcus's office that she was more than just a colleague. The glances they exchanged in the corridor, the occasional private lunch. No one wanted to assume the worst, but the office chatter grew, and Sienna didn't mind, feeding the rumors with subtle hints, laughter at inside jokes, a hand laid gently on Marcus's shoulder, a conspiratorial grin when their eyes met. Ava sensed something was off, though she fought to maintain her peace. To her mind, doubt was a corrosive force that could destroy a marriage just as surely as an actual betrayal. Yet each night as Marcus's arrivals grew later, Ava found herself lying awake longer. Imagining shapes in the darkness, she would stroke her growing belly as if reassuring the baby that everything was going to be fine. But her illusions were dimming. Ava had always struggled with trust. Her father had disappeared when she was 10, vanishing without explanation. That ghost had haunted every relationship she'd ever had. It was part of why she'd fallen for Marcus in the first place. His stability, his charm, his clarity of vision. But now, the echoes of abandonment stirred beneath the surface, and every unexplained call or late return scraped at a childhood wound she thought long buried. Then came the first undeniable sign. An unfamiliar earring in Marcus's car. Ava discovered it while grabbing a grocery receipt from the passenger seat. An earring studded with tiny emeralds, neither her style nor her possession. Marcus brushed it off, claiming it belonged to a friend who'd asked for a ride. Though Ava tried to accept the explanation, an ache lodged in her chest. It was in these tenuous moments, barely perceivable cracks forming under the weight of suspicion, that the seeds for the explosive scandal were sown. For if Marcus Langford truly had a paramour, it would only be a matter of time before the truth erupted, claiming more than just his marital bliss. The story was about to unfold in a way no one, least of all Ava, could have anticipated. The rumor mill at Nexora Systems churned at a relentless pace. In a startup environment where everyone worked late nights and weekends, gossip offered a strange kind of entertainment that broke the monotony of endless coding, designing, and strategizing. Sienna Blake was the focal point of these whispers. Her relationship with Marcus, though couched in professionalism, exuded an undeniable tension that left interns wide-eyed and managers uncomfortably silent during team meetings. Sienna's presence was magnetic. She carried herself with an air of confidence usually reserved for CEOs, not mid-level consultants. She asked incisive questions, challenging Marcus's decisions in a way that was both flattering and combative. Coworkers would later describe these moments as if they were watching two dancers locked in a tango, dangerous, intimate, and beautiful in its precision. Julian Grant, Marcus's longtime friend and business partner, was one of the few people who remained unimpressed. He had known Marcus since college when they'd shared cheap dorm dinners and dreamt about software that could reshape logistics. Julian noticed how Marcus's demeanor changed around Sienna, how his eyes drifted to her, even when Ava would stop by the office to bring homemade muffins for the team. While Julian and Ava were not especially close, he respected her deeply. She was genuine, warm, and supportive of Marcus's ambitions. One evening, as most employees were packing up, Julian confronted Marcus in his corner office. Through the glass walls, they appeared like two actors in a silent movie. Julian was visibly concerned, his arms crossed. Marcus attempted to laugh off whatever was being said, but his grin was forced. After a few tense minutes, Julian left, shaking his head. Sienna, who had been at her desk, locked eyes with Marcus through the glass. A knowing smile flickered across her lips. Outside the office, Sienna's life was equally mysterious. She lived in a sleek, modern apartment in downtown Denver, a place that seemed to function more like a stage set than a home. Her living room boasted massive windows with panoramic views of the city, but there were few personal items, no family photos, no souvenirs. Colleagues who visited her place, usually for after-work gatherings, left with the impression that she guarded her privacy ruthlessly, revealing only what she wanted people to see. When Marcus dropped her off one night following a team dinner, a curious neighbor spotted them. He saw Sienna leaning in, whispering something into Marcus's ear before disappearing into the building. The man later told his wife. He couldn't be sure, but it looked more than friendly. The rumor soon reached Silver Glen, drifting into the quiet corners of Ava's social circle. Ava, meanwhile, tried to appear unfazed. She poured her energy into designing a nursery, flipping through color palettes and searching for the perfect crib that balanced functionality with style. But beneath her determined calm, fear brewed. Sometimes she would Google Sienna Blake's name late at night, looking for any detail that might confirm or dispel her suspicions. All she found were professional accolades. No personal controversies, no skeletons in an online closet. It offered small comfort as office whispers grew louder. The invisible barrier keeping Ava's world intact began to wear thin. The people around Marcus, his oldest friends, his closest coworkers, recognized the precariousness of the situation. Some warned him to cool things off with Sienna. Others, lured by the thrill of a scandal, fueled the rumor mill with half-truths and speculation. It was only a matter of time before Sienna, the rumored mistress herself, seized control of the narrative, taking matters into her own hands in a way that would shake Silver Glen and the internet to its core. Ava first heard about the scandalous post from her friend, Claire Benson. Early one morning, Claire called in a state of mild panic, her voice trembling on the other end of the line. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I saw something online about Marcus and another woman." Ava's heart skittered in her chest. In a daze, she opened her laptop. Social media notifications bombarded her feed. Messages from acquaintances, cryptic comments. With a sinking feeling, she clicked on the link Claire had sent. There it was, a public post on a notorious gossip forum, authored by someone with the username Sienna_C_Truth. The headline read, "I'm the mistress and here's my proof." The post was breathtakingly explicit. Sienna detailed late-night rendezvous in expensive hotel suites, affectionate text exchanges, even allegations of hush money. Attached to the post were blurred but suggestive photos. A silhouette that could pass for Marcus's build, an arm that appeared to match his distinctive watch, a luxury sports car identical to Marcus's, parked outside a downtown condo. For a few seconds, Ava's mind went blank. The text on the screen seemed surreal, like a scene from a trashy soap opera rather than her own life. Then, as she scrolled further, rage coiled in her chest. Sienna claimed Marcus had promised to leave Ava, that he spoke of a loveless marriage, using terms like duty and obligation. The greatest sting was Sienna's allegation that Marcus was trapped because Ava was pregnant, implying that Ava's pregnancy was merely a strategic move to keep him tied down. News traveled like lightning. Within hours, the post was trending on multiple gossip sites and small-time tabloids. Denver's star entrepreneur in hot water, read one clickbait headline. Paparazzi began loitering around Nexora Systems headquarters and even outside the Langford's suburban home. Ava's phone buzzed incessantly, friends offering condolences, journalists asking for statements, and spam messages from strangers offering dubious support or outright condemnation. Marcus rushed home after hearing the news. Ava sat at the dining table, her laptop closed, arms folded over her belly, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, but anger radiated from her every pore. She demanded answers, her voice trembling with fury. Marcus, cornered, tried to deny the specifics. He called the photos coincidences and suggested Sienna had manufactured them to blackmail him. But Ava wasn't convinced. After all, Sienna's account matched too many details to be mere fabrication. The argument escalated. Ava hurled accusations. Marcus pleaded for her to let him explain. Eventually, Ava stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. She curled up on the bed, tears soaking her pillow, as she pressed a protective hand to her belly. Meanwhile, the online world devoured every update. Sienna reveled in the attention, teasing that there was more to come, fueling speculation about further evidence. Those close to the Langfords prayed it was all a misunderstanding, that Marcus was merely a victim of a scorned colleague. But in the midst of this frenzy, Sienna's motivations, once murky, started to crystallize. This wasn't just a cry for recognition. It felt like a carefully orchestrated power play, one that threatened to destroy not only Marcus's reputation, but also Ava's entire sense of security in her marriage. In the days following Sienna's public disclosure, loyalty lines at Nexora Systems were drawn in the sand. Many employees, especially those who had idolized Marcus for his charismatic leadership, were stunned. Some refused to believe the allegations without conclusive proof. Others had witnessed enough tense, whispery exchanges between Marcus and Sienna to suspect there was truth to her claims. Julian Grant found himself in an awkward position. He had urged Marcus to be more cautious around Sienna, maybe even step back from day-to-day involvement at the company. Now, with the scandal out in the open, the company's board demanded an explanation. Julian spent hours in emergency meetings, trying to assure stakeholders that Nexora Systems would weather the storm. But investors grew jittery, and the stock took a slight tumble. Frustration welled in Julian's chest. Marcus's personal entanglements were becoming a massive corporate liability. Marcus, for his part, tried to pretend it was business as usual. He walked through the office corridors with forced composure. He delivered pep talks, even cracked a few jokes, but the tension was palpable. Some employees whispered that Sienna had more dirt to spill. Others claimed that Marcus was scrambling to do damage control behind the scenes. Away from the corporate chaos, Ava took a leave of absence from her design projects. She couldn't focus on color palettes or floor plans when her entire life had been upended. She stayed home, fighting an internal war between heartbreak and an odd protective instinct for Marcus's unborn child. Exhaustion set in, emotional strain mingled with the physical challenges of pregnancy. Nights were restless. Days, an endless cycle of phone calls from sympathetic friends and glimpses of tabloid headlines featuring her marriage. Sienna, meanwhile, seemed to bask in the attention like a star on a red carpet. She posted cryptic updates on social media, screenshots of alleged conversations with Marcus, some possibly doctored, some heartbreakingly real. Photos of them out to dinner and even voice notes where a man, sounding very much like Marcus, murmured sweet nothings. Online commentators leaped on every new morsel, dissecting them with feral glee. Yet beneath Sienna's bravado lurked a hint of desperation. Some suspected she wanted to push Marcus into a corner, perhaps to make good on an unfulfilled promise. Others speculated she was angling for a huge payoff. Her flamboyant approach alienated more measured observers who questioned her motives. Still, the damage to Marcus's reputation and Ava's marriage seemed irreversible. In Silver Glen, a new kind of quiet descended. It was the hush of neighbors tiptoeing around a house under siege. The Langfords' mailbox overflowed with letters, some supportive, others hateful. A few even contained ominous warnings. Ava learned to ignore the doorbell unless she was expecting a friend or family member. Curiosity seekers, journalists, and random busybodies often hovered nearby. A surprising ally emerged in the form of Claire Benson. Ava's close friend, Claire became her confidant, standing guard at the Langford home to ward off paparazzi, organizing grocery deliveries, and sending out polite but firm messages to those who pried. When Ava felt too isolated to face the world, Claire would coax her onto the porch, reminding her that no matter how painful things seemed, she still had a life and a baby to fight for. Amid the chaos, Ava discovered an unsettling sense of purpose. She was determined to find real answers. Not just scraps of gossip. Did Marcus truly love Sienna, or was he trapped in some twisted scheme? If he was guilty, did he deserve the life they had built together? As the pressure mounted, so did Ava's resolve. Little did she know that she would soon gain the upper hand in the most unexpected way. A discovery that would not just rock Sienna's claims, but rip open Marcus's carefully guarded secrets, leading to an explosive confrontation no one saw coming. When Ava found herself staring at the ceiling night after night, searching for a shred of clarity, her thoughts invariably returned to the lingering questions about Sienna. Who was she, really? Where did she come from? Why would she target Marcus so brazenly? Claire Benson suggested they do some digging of their own. If Sienna wanted to air dirty laundry online, maybe Ava could uncover a skeleton or two in Sienna's closet. With quiet resolve, Ava agreed. While she didn't want to indulge in the same sensationalism that had marked Sienna's public revelations, she needed answers before her life crumbled further. They started with basic online research. Sienna Blake's LinkedIn profile read like a polished resume: degrees from prestigious universities, a track record of successful design projects, glowing endorsements. No mention of the scandal, of course. Claire, who was surprisingly adept at internet sleuthing, dug up older versions of Sienna's personal website using internet archives. That's where they struck their first clue. Sienna had once gone by the name Sienna Cordova, not Blake. It wasn't a secret per se, but the abrupt name change a few years prior was curious. Using a network of acquaintances, Claire connected them with a freelance investigative journalist, Marisol Reyes, who specialized in business controversies. Marisol agreed to help for a small fee, which Claire insisted on covering. "I'll spare no expense if it means getting to the truth," Claire had said, her voice unwavering with loyalty to Ava. Soon, more pieces of Sienna's puzzle came to light. She had left her home state after a messy breakup with a wealthy fiancé, rumored to be Jordan Maxwell, a real estate mogul in Texas. There were whispers that Sienna had threatened to release compromising photos of Jordan if he didn't meet certain financial obligations. The entire ordeal had been hushed up before it could make major headlines, but digital footprints rarely vanish completely. Armed with this knowledge, Ava felt a spark of hope. Was Sienna repeating the pattern, targeting successful men, leveraging intimate details for personal gain or revenge? If so, Marcus might be just the latest in a string of conquests. Yet Ava wasn't sure if this absolved Marcus of guilt or condemned him further. If he had truly succumbed to Sienna's manipulations, that meant he'd betrayed Ava and their unborn child. While Ava wrestled with these revelations, Marcus faced a storm at Nixora Systems. His official statement denying Sienna's claims had done little to quell investors' nerves. Sienna's persistent social media jabs painted him as a liar. The tension drove him to seek Ava out for help, or at least emotional support. But Ava, newly galvanized by her discoveries, was done playing the victim. She demanded full honesty. If he wanted her help in clearing his name, he had to show her everything: emails, texts, bank statements, hotel receipts. She insisted on the truth, no matter how ugly. Marcus hesitated. His reluctance only fueled Ava's suspicions. He eventually handed over partial records, claiming the rest were on secured corporate servers. The gap between what Ava saw and what Marcus refused to show was a chasm wide enough to bury a marriage in. Feeling cornered, Marcus made a gesture of goodwill. He agreed to speak with Marisol Reyes to clarify his position. But was that a genuine effort to clear the air? Or simply another tactic to control the narrative? Outside, Autumn leaves danced along Silver Glen's tidy sidewalks. The season's gentle shift contrasted starkly with the turbulence inside the Langford household. Secrets, half-truths, and silent accusations swirled in every conversation, every glance. If there was any chance to salvage their future, Ava had to keep digging. The answers she found in the shadows of Sienna Blake's past might hold the key, not just to exposing Sienna's motives, but also to unearthing Marcus's darkest confessions. Ava was taken aback when she received a discreet message from none other than Julian Grant. He requested a private meeting away from the prying eyes of the office and the Langford home. They settled on a small cafe in a tucked-away neighborhood of Denver, one that Ava used to frequent for its exquisite pastries. She arrived early, nerves on edge, scanning the cafe's warm interior until Julian walked in, dressed in a casual blazer and jeans. He looked every bit the tech entrepreneur, but his eyes held a seriousness that hinted at deeper concerns. After ordering coffee, they chose a table near the back, far from the rest of the patrons. Julian leaned forward, voice hushed. "I'm worried about Marcus," he admitted. "His decisions lately, they haven't been logical. I suspect he's in deeper trouble than we realize." This wasn't mere speculation. Julian possessed sensitive information from the company's financial systems, some irregular transfers, unexplained expenses. While he couldn't prove anything yet, the numbers seemed to suggest that Marcus might have been funneling money into a private account, possibly for Sienna. Ava's heart lurched. Had Marcus been buying Sienna's silence, or was he simply lavishly spending on her? The revelation bruised Ava's already wounded heart, but it also sharpened her determination. Her voice trembled only slightly as she asked, "Why are you telling me this?" Julian glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. "Because I believe you deserve to know the truth, and Nexora Systems can't afford any more scandals. If Marcus is compromised, I need to protect our employees, our investors, and honestly, you too." The conversation was sobering, but it also gave Ava a crucial piece of the puzzle. She considered telling Julian about Sienna's murky past but held back, for now. She wanted to keep that card close to her chest. Still, she felt a reluctant gratitude toward Julian. He was the first person in Marcus's inner circle who seemed willing to help her uncover the full story. Before leaving, Julian handed Ava a small USB drive. "There are some documents here that might help you understand what's going on. They're not entirely conclusive, but it's a start. Use them carefully." That evening, Ava pored over the files in her study, her stomach twisting. Bank transfers to an account in Sienna's former hometown, unexplained invoices labeled consulting fees, and personal expenses charged to Nexora's business account. Fine dining, luxury gifts, even expensive jewelry. The amounts were staggering. One line item struck her: a transaction for emerald earrings, the same style as the earring Ava had found in Marcus's car. Bitterness flooded her as she realized that might have been the matching pair. The betrayal weighed heavily. No matter how often she told herself it was just money, she was too far along in her pregnancy to endure this amount of stress comfortably. Yet she couldn't abandon her mission. If Marcus and Sienna had conspired to bleed company funds or hide an ongoing affair, the truth had to come out. At the same time, Ava noticed anomalies in the timeline. Some expenses predated Sienna's involvement at Nexora, which suggested Marcus may have had a separate life well before Sienna arrived on the scene. Could it be that Sienna was simply the tip of the iceberg, or a catalyst exposing secrets that had been hidden for years? Sleep offered no solace. Ava's dreams were haunted by cryptic bank statements and images of Marcus and Sienna wrapped in a dark embrace. Yet in the midst of that restless night, she felt a flicker of resolve. She was pregnant, abandoned emotionally, but not powerless. She knew she had to take the information further, to piece together enough evidence not only to confront Marcus, but also to end Sienna's public crusade. Tomorrow, she would set a new plan in motion, one that would bring her face to face with her greatest fears and potentially set the stage for the explosive final act that no one, not even Sienna, could see coming. Ava didn't expect to see Sienna standing on her front porch on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Yet there she was, alive and poised under a black umbrella, hair styled impeccably, as if the drizzle hadn't dared to touch her. Ava's heart seized. She almost considered not answering the door, but a strange compulsion drew her forward. Clutching the doorknob, she opened it just enough to peek out. "What do you want?" Ava's voice was terse, her pregnant belly making it nearly impossible to conceal her trembling. Sienna offered a half smile. "We should talk." Ava's first instinct was to slam the door, but if she hoped to end this nightmare, maybe a direct conversation could yield answers. With reluctant resolve, she stepped aside, allowing Sienna entry. They moved into the living room, the tension so thick it seemed to muffle the steady patter of rain on the windows. Sienna's gaze swept across the room, lingering on framed wedding photos, tasteful decor, signs of a life built on illusions. Her lips curled in mild amusement. "Nice place, very domestic." Ava folded her arms over her swollen belly. "Say what you came to say." Sienna began with a theatrical sigh. "Marcus is in over his head. He made promises to me, big ones. Now he's trying to wiggle out of them. I'm sure you've heard about my posts. I have more proof, more details. If Marcus thinks he can discard me and salvage his reputation with some half-hearted denial, he's wrong." A rush of protective anger surged through Ava. "You think you can just tear apart my marriage and get a cash payout? That's what this is about, isn't it?" Sienna's eyes flashed with something akin to indignation. "You're so quick to judge. But you don't know him like I do, the secrets he keeps. Trust me, I'm doing you a favor by exposing him." Ava's breath caught. The conversation teetered between confrontation and revelation. "What do you mean?" Ava asked, locking eyes with her. The corners of Sienna's mouth tightened. "I was never the first. Check his financials. Check the hush money he's paid out to other women. You think this is just me? You're wrong." The implication stunned Ava into silence. Could Marcus's history of deceit stretch even further? She recalled the suspicious bank statements that predated Sienna's arrival. That unsettled sense that something else had always lurked beneath the surface. Seeing Ava's expression, Sienna continued. "I don't want to destroy you, Ava, but I refuse to let him destroy me first." Despite her anger, Ava sensed a spark of genuine resentment behind Sienna's theatrics. Perhaps Sienna believed Marcus had wronged or deceived her, just as he had deceived Ava. A twisted bond of betrayal linked them. But Ava also recognized Sienna's manipulative streak, her intent to stay in control of the situation. "I have nothing more to say to you," Ava said finally, her voice trembling with pent-up fury and heartbreak. "Get out of my house." Sienna rose, umbrella in hand. She paused at the door, turning once more to face Ava. "I'm releasing more information soon. If Marcus won't own up, I'll make him. And if you think this is hurting you now, just wait. It's about to get worse." Then she was gone. Footsteps echoed on the porch as she disappeared into the rain. Ava stood there, breath shallow, her mind spinning. For the first time she felt a tiny trace of sympathy for Sienna, but it was drowned by a tidal wave of fear for what was coming next. This confrontation had given Ava a horrifying glimpse into the full scope of Marcus's lies and the growing certainty that a far darker unveiling was on the horizon. In the wake of Sienna's visit, Ava found herself in a race against time to uncover the truth before Sienna's next public strike. Marcus had grown distant and elusive. He claimed to be working late, in crisis mode, dealing with investors and lawyers, but Ava suspected he was simply running from the storm he'd brewed. Desperate for clarity, Ava returned to the USB drive Julian had given her, searching for anything she might have missed. She discovered a series of encrypted files that she hadn't been able to open before. Armed with some free encryption cracking software and a little late-night determination, she finally managed to unlock the folder. Inside were documents that sent her heart into a spiral of despair. They detailed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, signed by at least 3 different women. Each case was eerily similar: a short affair, a monetary settlement, and a legally binding promise never to reveal the relationship. One name stood out: Marissa Devine. The NDA was dated over a year before Sienna joined Nexora Systems, when Ava had still believed her marriage was stable. Shock turned to fury. Marcus had orchestrated payoffs to keep these affairs hidden, each time covering his tracks more elaborately. The transactions were masked as consulting fees or charitable donations. Funneled through a complex web of shell accounts, reading through the legal jargon made Ava feel ill. The NDAs contained language suggesting emotional distress, and in one case, the mention of an unplanned pregnancy that was later resolved. Tears blurred her vision as she grasped the extent of Marcus's betrayal. The man she once believed to be her soulmate, the father of her unborn child, was a serial cheater who had mastered the art of hush money. Her hands shook, rage and humiliation swirling in her gut. A single thought propelled her forward. She had to confront Marcus with indisputable evidence. She printed out the documents and laid them out on the kitchen table like a grim tapestry of deceit. When Marcus returned home that night, his eyes were bloodshot from stress and lack of sleep. He barely removed his coat before Ava directed him to the kitchen. "Explain this," she demanded, pointing to the NDAs. Her voice quavered, but her gaze held steady. Marcus paled. He fumbled for words, glancing from one printed page to the next. "Where? How did you get these?" he finally managed. "That doesn't matter," Ava snapped. "I want the truth." Cornered, Marcus sank into a chair, head in his hands. Slowly, haltingly, he confessed. Yes, he had succumbed to temptation multiple times. Yes, he had paid these women off. He claimed he never loved them, just lapses in judgment that he tried to contain. Sienna, he insisted, was supposed to be just another hush money arrangement, but she refused to sign any NDA. Instead, she was extorting him. Marcus begged for Ava's forgiveness. He promised to do whatever it took to fix this, to prove he wanted a real family with her and their unborn child. But Ava's heart had hardened. His words felt hollow, overshadowed by the staggering depth of his lies. "You've destroyed us," she whispered, voice clogged with tears. "I don't even know who you are anymore." Marcus reached out, but she recoiled. She stared at the man who had once been her partner, realizing that whatever illusions she had about their marriage were gone. In that moment, Ava knew she had to craft her own plan. Not just to salvage whatever remnants of her life still had value, but also to protect her child from the ripple effects of Marcus's deception. And with Sienna threatening to unleash more revelations, Ava needed a weapon of her own, something that would shift the balance of power in this sickening game. In the days following Marcus's confession, Ava felt numb. Morning sickness returned with a vengeance, fueled by anxiety and heartbreak. Sleep was a scant luxury. Her dreams were twisted by images of NDAs and sneering, faceless women. She had never felt more alone, nor more determined to fight for her dignity and for her unborn child's future. A sliver of hope arrived unexpectedly in the form of a phone call from Marisol Reyes, the freelance journalist Claire had hired. Marisol's voice crackled over the line. "I've uncovered something you might find useful." She said, "It's not just about Sienna Blake." That evening, Marisol visited Ava's home, armed with a laptop and folders of documents. Together, they pored over the information. It turned out that Sienna had once tried to blow the whistle on Marcus's improper corporate spending. Even before she went public with the affair, she had sent an anonymous tip to a financial crimes hotline, including hints at money laundering and stock manipulation. But the investigation never went anywhere, probably because Sienna's claims were overshadowed by her own questionable conduct. So, she tried a legal route first, Ava observed, scanning an email trail. And when that didn't work, she went public with the affair to get attention. "That's the gist," Marisol confirmed. Sienna's claims? Marcus had been funneling company money for personal use, beyond just hush money. But so far, she hadn't released the hard proof. Maybe it's her bargaining chip. Ava's mind whirled. If Sienna had documented more than just an affair, if she had evidence of financial crimes, Marcus could be facing legal consequences, perhaps even jail time. The twisted morality of it all left Ava conflicted. She despised Marcus's betrayal. Yet she didn't relish the idea of her child's father in prison. However, she also knew she couldn't let fear paralyze her. She thought back to one detail that had emerged. A single mention in the NDAs about a hidden asset, presumably real estate. Could that property hold crucial evidence? A friend from Ava's design industry had once mentioned seeing Marcus at a remote lakeside estate months ago, a place Ava had never visited. Rumors suggested Marcus kept that property as a secret retreat, maybe even a love nest. "Marisol," Ava said slowly, "is there any chance you can help me find more information on that property? Maybe Sienna knows something about it." It was a long shot, but Marisol was more than game. "I'll see what I can dig up," she promised. As midnight approached, Ava walked Marisol out. The crisp night air jolted her weary senses. Her thoughts drifted to the baby kicking softly inside her. She realized that while she felt more alone than ever in her marriage, she wasn't truly isolated. Allies like Claire, Julian, and Marisol were rallying around her. That sense of communal support emboldened her to keep fighting. For the first time in weeks, she felt the faintest stirring of control returning to her life. The path ahead was precarious, but Ava sensed a turning point. She wouldn't sit idly by waiting for Sienna's next bombshell, or Marcus's next apology. She had to steer this ship before it sank completely. And if that meant risking Marcus's wrath or Sienna's cunning, so be it. Tomorrow she would set out to uncover the truth behind that mysterious property. And in doing so, she might just find the leverage she needed to regain her life or forever alter it. In a way no one could predict, a week later Ava found herself driving along a winding road toward the outskirts of Silver Glen. Guided by cryptic directions and half-verified leads from Marisol, the promise of uncovering Marcus's hidden asset spurred her forward, though the entire trek felt surreal. She recalled the early days of their relationship, when she and Marcus would take spontaneous weekend getaways, singing along to the radio with the windows down. Those memories clashed painfully with the present, where she was an 8 months pregnant wife uncovering her husband's double life. The road turned gravel, flanked by towering pines and the faint glimmer of a lake through the trees. When she finally spotted a discreet wooden sign, Lakeview Pines, she knew she was close. Sure enough, a large wrought iron gate stood just ahead. She killed the engine and surveyed the imposing gate. No keypad, no buzzer, just a padlocked chain. The property seemed deserted. Undaunted, Ava tugged at the lock. It was solid, but the chain itself had a bit of slack. After some trial and error, she managed to slip through the narrow gap, her pregnant belly making it a tight squeeze. She worried about trespassing, but this was her husband's property. She had a right to be here, or at least that's what she told herself as she walked carefully down the gravel driveway. Minutes later, the house appeared. A sprawling modern cabin of glass and timber perched gracefully on the lake's edge. Despite the picturesque setting, a chill draped the air. Ava approached the front door, half expecting an alarm to blare, but when she tried the knob, it turned freely. The door swung open to reveal a silent, immaculate interior. She stepped inside, heart pounding. The living room boasted floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic lake views, a stone fireplace, and designer furniture that made the place look like it came straight from a luxury magazine, yet it felt devoid of life. No personal photos, no small comforts. Nothing to suggest a happy retreat. It reminded Ava of Sienna's sterile apartment, too curated to be truly lived in. Moving cautiously, Ava ventured into a side room that appeared to be a home office. On the desk lay scattered paperwork, some architectural plans, a few real estate brochures, and manila folders labeled with property addresses. One folder caught her eye. Backup. Confidential. Adrenaline spiked as she flipped through it. Inside were documents referencing offshore accounts, stock transactions under the name of a shell corporation, and more NDAs. If Ava had ever doubted Marcus's capacity for deception, these papers dispelled any lingering illusions. But the biggest shock came when she discovered a USB stick taped beneath the desk, carefully secured in place. She pried it off, her hands trembling. A note in Marcus's handwriting stuck next to it read, "In case of emergency." For a moment she hesitated, terrified of what emergency might mean, but she pocketed the USB anyway, determined to glean every bit of information she could. A soft noise from the hallway made her heart jolt. She froze, listening. It sounded like footsteps on the wooden floor. Panic seized her. Was Marcus here, or worse, Sienna? Quietly, Ava set the folder down and moved toward the living room. Silence. She peered around a corner but saw no one. Perhaps it was just the wind, or her nerves playing tricks. With a final glance at the lake's still waters, she hurried outside, certain she'd overstayed her welcome. The drive back felt interminable. Her mind spun with questions. Did Sienna know about this place? Was this where they'd met in secret? Or was it simply Marcus's hideaway for shady business dealings? Ava gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled focus, determined to analyze the USB's contents. She had little inkling that the discovery at the lake house would soon collide with Sienna's next big reveal. The fuse was burning down, and the impending explosion threatened to blow their lives apart in a spectacle that Silver Glen and the internet would never forget. When Ava returned home, she wasted no time. Plugging the USB from the lake house into her laptop, fear and curiosity battled in her chest. What she found stunned her more than any bank statement or NDA could have prepared her for. The folder contained a single large video file, labeled Confession. With trembling fingers, she clicked play. The footage opened on Marcus, sitting at a desk in what appeared to be the lake house office. He looked disheveled, eyes ringed with exhaustion, wearing the same watch and shirt Ava recognized from months ago, perhaps the early days of the scandal. Marcus leaned toward the camera, exhaling shakily. "If you're watching this, then everything's probably out in the open," he began, voice quavering. "I've made mistakes, big ones. It started as a single lapse in judgment. One fling. I told myself it wouldn't matter, but it spiraled. I paid people off, hid the truth. I thought money could cover my tracks. I was wrong." He ran a hand through his hair, grappling with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt Ava, or our baby. I love them, but I couldn't stop. The thrill, the escape, it was addictive. Then Sienna came along. She found out about my finances, threatened to expose me unless I left Ava. I couldn't do it, so she demanded hush money. This time it wasn't so simple. She wanted more, a piece of my company, a share of my life." In the video, Marcus glanced away, eyes misting. "If I vanish, it's because I can't face what I've done, or maybe because Sienna finally decided to take her revenge. I don't know who I am anymore, or if there's any way to fix this." He paused, swallowing hard. "But Ava, if you're the one watching, please believe this. I love you. You deserved better from me." The screen went dark. Tears slipped down Ava's cheeks as she watched Marcus's raw confession. For all his failures, his arrogance and deceit, there was an anguished sincerity in that moment, an admission that he was trapped by his own flaws. She replayed the final words, letting them wash over her. Part of her still longed to believe in redemption, but the weight of everything he'd done hung like a chain around her heart. Before she could fully process the video, her phone buzzed. A message from Claire popped up. "Sienna just went live online with major sips. You need to see this." Ava's pulse soared. Sienna was launching her next attack, likely the damning evidence she'd teased about. But now Ava had her own bombshell, Marcus's confessional video. Would it save him or seal his fate? Rushing to open her social media, Ava saw Sienna streaming from what looked like a lavish hotel suite. She brandished screenshots, recorded phone calls, bank statements. The audience swelled to thousands within minutes, each comment more frenzied than the last. Sienna was stoking the fire, implicating Marcus in fraud, deceit, everything. Ava realized this was her crossroads. Marcus's confession could either be hidden away, used as leverage, or posted publicly to show Sienna's manipulations and Marcus's regret in unfiltered detail. But if she uploaded the video, there was no going back. It would light a fuse that could set off an avalanche of repercussions. The scandal would intensify, overshadowing even Sienna's revelations. Yet Ava had no illusions anymore. She was done playing defense. With the baby's due date looming, she had to choose her family's future over the shame. Marcus might be beyond redemption, but perhaps, with the truth out there, Ava could carve out a path free of blackmail and half-truths. With a shaky breath, she prepared to do the unthinkable. She began uploading Marcus's confession to the same social media platform Sienna was using. The world was about to witness a showdown of epic proportions, one that would culminate in Marcus's sudden and mysterious disappearance. As Ava's upload inched toward completion, she watched Sienna's livestream in real time. The comment section scrolled too fast to read, filled with accusations, shock, condemnation, and the occasional trollish remark. Sienna fed off the attention, her voice dripping with triumphant malice. Then, almost abruptly, Sienna's tone changed. She paused mid-sentence, tapping her phone screen in apparent confusion. The chat erupted with messages. Marcus Langford confession video. People were posting a link, Ava's link. In seconds, Sienna realized she was no longer the only one controlling the narrative. Her smirk wavered, replaced by fury. "Seems Marcus is desperate," she sneered, trying to regain composure. "Whatever video you're..." "Don't let it fool you," Sienna snapped. "He's only coming clean because he was caught." But her words sounded hollow. The comment section flooded with reactions to Marcus's raw confession. At home, Ava's phone nearly slipped from her trembling hand as notifications swarmed her screen. The video had gone viral. Thousands of views turned into tens of thousands within minutes. Shock, sympathy, anger. It was a tidal wave of emotion. Marcus Langford's confession trended worldwide, overshadowing Sienna's carefully orchestrated revelations. People debated whether to vilify him or pity him. Meanwhile, Ava stood by helplessly, wonder mixed with dread. An hour later, the calls started, from reporters, from gossip columnists, even from talk show hosts. Everyone wanted an exclusive. Ava ignored them all, focusing instead on a single thought. Where was Marcus? He hadn't been home for days, claiming to be working non-stop. But now, with the confession exposed, he was unreachable. His phone went straight to voicemail. Julian Grant called Ava in a panic, saying Marcus hadn't shown up at the office that morning. Even the security cameras at Nexora Systems offered no clues. Marcus hadn't set foot on the premises for nearly 24 hours. By nightfall, the internet was ablaze with theories. Some insisted Marcus had fled the country, absconding with millions. Others claimed he was in hiding at the lake house or holed up in some five-star hotel. Conspiracy rumors circulated about shady investors who might have disappeared him. A smaller group speculated that Sienna was behind it, that in her rage, she had taken drastic action. Ava stood in her living room, tears threatening to spill. Despite the anger and betrayal, she couldn't shake her worry. Marcus's final words in the video suggested he might run away, or worse, harm himself out of guilt. She pressed a hand over her swollen belly, heart pounding with an urgent maternal protectiveness. She might hate him for what he'd done, but she also feared for his life. Days stretched into a week. The police opened a missing persons case. They scoured the lake house, interviewed Sienna, questioned employees. Marcus seemed to have vanished without a trace. No suspicious charges on credit cards, no sightings that panned out, no cryptic notes. While some people believed the disappearance was a strategic move, Ava felt an ache that refused to subside. Her unborn child would be brought into a world forever marred by unanswered questions. What had really happened to Marcus Langford? In the end, the million-dollar scandal ended with a single question mark. The mistress who had exposed him, once so triumphant, found her star burned out as public interest shifted to the mystery of Marcus's fate. Ava, thrust into an unwanted spotlight, discovered a strange kind of freedom in the aftermath. With every day Marcus remained missing, she began rebuilding, forging a sense of independence fueled by heartbreak and newfound resilience. All that was left was a story that would live on in tabloids, forums, and small talk around Silver Glen for years to come. The mistress posted their affair online, but the pregnant wife uploaded a video that made the millionaire vanish. No one could say if Marcus would resurface to atone for his sins or remain a phantom of scandal forever. And though Ava could not forget the sting of his betrayal, she found solace in the first cries of her newborn child months later, deciding that some mysteries were better left unsolved as life carried on, with or without the man who had once captivated her world. The seasons turned in Silver Glen, painting the trees in hues of amber and rust. With each passing month, Ava let go of headlines, of questions of Marcus. He had disappeared into the very shadows his actions had cast, and she no longer felt the need to chase answers that would never come. Her days were quiet now, centered. In the warm hush of her baby's nursery, she often sat beside the crib, hands folded, breathing in peace like a new language she was learning to speak. She had stopped waiting for closure. Instead, she built it, brick by brick. Ava opened her design studio Second Light, focusing on homes for women starting over. The name spoke to her rebirth, her resilience. She never mentioned Marcus again. Not in interviews, not to clients, not even to friends. There was nothing left to say. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is choose not to relive the storm. Nearly a year passed. Life had settled into a rhythm of soft mornings, client meetings, and laughter echoing from her daughter's room. But one evening, Ava's inbox pinged with a message that made her pulse stutter. Sender, unknown. Subject, you don't know everything. The email was bare bones, just a sentence and a photo attachment. Check arrivals, Gate 12, Lisbon to Denver, October 4th. You'll want to be there. The photo was grainy, pulled from what looked like airport security footage. The figure was hard to make out, but something about the stance, the shoulders, the tilt of the head, it looked like Marcus. Ava stared for a long time, unsure whether to feel dread, hope, or nothing at all. And maybe for the first time, she didn't need to feel anything, because whatever secrets lingered in the corners of the past, she had already claimed her peace. 3 years later, the scandal had faded into rumor. Silver Glen had moved on, and so had Ava. She stood barefoot in the garden outside Second Light, watching her daughter, now a bright, curious toddler, chase butterflies. The sun was warm. The breeze carried lavender and laughter. Then one morning an envelope arrived. No sender, no stamp, just her name. Inside, a worn leather notebook and a brief note from Portuguese authorities. Remains identified, items enclosed. Ava's hands trembled as she opened the journal. The handwriting, familiar, uneven, belonged to Marcus. The entries were raw, filled with regret. He had lived in hiding in a coastal village, unable to face the world he broke. "I never stopped loving you," he wrote. "But I knew I didn't deserve the life we had." She didn't cry. Instead, she closed the notebook, walked to her garden, and sat with her daughter beneath the sun. She had survived the storm, and now she thrived in the light that followed. Thank you for staying until the very end. If you're still here, it means you've walked every step of Ava's journey with us, from betrayal and heartbreak to silence to strength. And now, as her story closes, I want to speak not just about her, but about you. Because Ava's journey might be fictional, but the pain she carried, the doubts she faced, the quiet resilience she discovered, those are real. Maybe you've stood where she stood. Maybe you're still standing there. Life has a cruel way of testing us, through people we trusted, plans we believed in, futures we thought were certain. But the Stoics remind us, we don't get to choose the storm, only how we respond to it. Ava didn't control Marcus's choices, but she chose how to rise from them. That's what made her powerful. If you're holding pieces of a life you once imagined, just know, healing doesn't happen in noise. It happens in those small, defiant decisions to move forward, even when your heart is still shattered. This story wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming peace. It wasn't about punishment. It was about freedom. Ava didn't just survive Marcus's betrayal. She transcended it. You can too. And if this story meant something to you, if it made you feel seen, if it helped you breathe through your own grief, or offered a flicker of clarity, I'd be honored if you let us know. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Your thoughts truly matter. They help us build more stories that speak to the soul. Because somewhere out there, someone else is quietly scrolling, looking for a story to remind them they're not alone. And maybe your comment is the hand they need to hold. Remember this, dear friend. Justice isn't always found in courtrooms. Sometimes it's found in who you become after the fall. Take care of yourself and take heart. We'll see you in the next story.